Alrighty, so it's Friday night. I'm working on my last wedding cake. So we are doing a 16-inch raspberry cake today. We've got a lovely big cake board. I've got lots of cake bits. So let's get going. So I've got a lovely giant batch of vanilla buttercream here. And we are putting lemon syrup and lemon curd inside this cake. So it'll be very tasty. It's one of my most popular flavors. It's light and fresh, and it's going to have tons of raspberries on top. So, you know, lemon and raspberry, you can't go wrong with that combination. So a little bit of buttercream on our cake board, which will act like glue. So I bake this size cake in 2 separate halves, just because when you get to a certain size of cake, one, it may no longer fit in your oven, but two, it can take a very long time to cook. So I find doing it in smaller pieces means you just get a nicer result. All right, so I got my lovely vanilla cakes. And I'm just brushing them with a lemon syrup. So we're just painting the cake, basically. And these are butter cakes. So they're not as heavy as mud cake, not as light as sponge cake, and they're somewhere in between, which I like because they're heavy enough to stay fresh, but because there's a lot of butter in them, once they come up to room temperature or body temperature, they're nice and soft and great texture. All right, so these are that's our bottom layer, all nice and soaked in lemon. And I'm just going to give that a second to soak in. And while that happens, I'm just going to soak my top layer as well. Vanilla buttercream. I'm just going to pipe nice big dots. Around the outside edge. So I'm going as close to the edge as I can without being right on the edge, because when I put cake on top of it, I don't want it to ooze out everywhere. Right, now I'm going to take some lemon curd. Just give it a slight stir. I don't want to break it down. I just want to make it smooth enough to spread. Just going to carefully maneuver this up to the buttercream without actually pushing it through the gaps. I think that looks pretty good. All right, let's grab our buttercream. All right, so I'm just going to pipe some really little dots just to make sure my lemon curd is sealed in. So that should pretty much make sure that the curd can't ooze up and over. And then okay. So we're just putting a layer, oops, I bumped the board, layer of buttercream on top of the cake. Just piping it because that's sort of the feel of the cake. But just making like nice quick pipes. Also my buttercream's just a tad soft. Which makes it really easy at this point. Now, because it's baked in 2 halves, and obviously I know where the halfway is, I don't want to put the top layers on in that same positioning because literally, well, one, the cake could split in half, but 2, like if you got the center portion, you wouldn't really get a nice looking portion. So I'm just going to take my next cake layer and just arrange it offset so the cake becomes a lot stronger. So my most important buttercream dots are done. The ones that have to be super pretty because people will see them. And then just with the next batch, they don't have to be as pretty, but I'm trying to get them to go in these like in the in-between bits, just to make sure you don't see any, like you don't have any holes. And now I'm just filling in any little gaps and any sort of lower areas because we're going to put raspberries on top of this and we want it to be as even as possible. Okay, here comes the fun bit. Well, the slow and tedious bit, but the bit that makes the cake look good, right? So these are beautiful and big, which is nice because they'll just look gorgeous. There we go. Outer ring is complete. Yay! So that's like my most important presentation layer of raspberries. Anyways, this is actually coming along not too badly. We're about up to almost an hour. That's really not too bad for a cake this size. Anyway, I've done my bottom row and I've got around the presentation layer for the outside, so super cool. Here I am adding an extra layer of raspberries on top. This covers up any gaps and finishes off the cake nicely. It does dramatically increase the amount of raspberries required though, and you can see the pile of empty containers mounting up. This cake used approximately 24 punnets of berries, including all of my discards, which still taste great but aren't pretty enough for presentation. Make sure you keep these for baking into cakes or for raspberry sauce, etc. Alrighty. It is done.